Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rich. Getting ready to install this Schluter Systems Ditra Heat membrane, and it will allow for electric heat cables to run through it so that you can heat the floors underneath the tile. So to install this, you want to use on a plywood subfloor. You need to have a thin set mortar that is a modified mortar, a polymer modified mortar, so that it will stick to the plywood substrate. So I'm using the Schluter's All Set because it is a modified mortar and it covers the ANSI requirements for a modified mortar, which you would need a 0.11 or a 0.15 on the ANSI codes. But getting a little ahead of myself, so tonight we're just going to go ahead and lay this out on the ground and get it cut so that it fits within all the areas of the bathroom. Obviously it's not too difficult to basically cut this out, measure it and cut it to the appropriate specs. You just need to make sure that when you're cutting it, you want to give yourself about 1/8 of an inch gap between the walls, just to give yourself some space for expansion and contraction. Because this is going to be heated up in the wintertime and it's going to be colder, it's going to have lots of temperature changes within it, so you need to give yourself space between the walls so that it has that room to expand and contract, or else it could potentially buckle the tiles. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to go about doing it, and then I'll also show you how I'm going to install this in my shower. We're going to be laying this out and cutting it so that it fits around the flange and it's nice and level and flat with the flange itself so that I can waterproof. So the first thing that you need to figure out is how you want to lay it out. And I basically determined, based on the dimensions of my room, that I want to lay the strip out in this direction. So we're going to go ahead and start on this end. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of lay it out a little bit. Alright, so I know that I need to slide this over some to get to the middle of this doorway. So it needs to come over, I need to cut here and go over two of these nubs. So that means once this slides over, right now I need to move over 4, but I need to move 2 more because it's going to be there. So this is going to be my cut area right here. I mean, right here is probably where I need to be. Rather than cutting it right here, I'm going to cut it right there and come in like that. This is going to be 13 inches, so 13 inches is going to put me. Well, what's nice about this Schluter mat is that it's got like a little molded line that you just take your razor and just cut right down through it, and it just cuts it without a lot of effort. This isn't the sharpest razor blade, but it's cutting it pretty good. So you can see here that I got about really almost a 1/4 of an inch gap or more. And that's not going to be a big deal because, I mean, the counter's going to be behind here anyhow. So it's not a problem. And you're going to tile up almost to the edge anyway. And then the baseboard's going to be there. So same with this area as well. I can kind of fill that in with mortar and tile up to it. So now it's just a matter of doing the rest of these up to the shower, and then I'll notch that as I need to, because these will be full pieces. So let's go ahead and keep moving. Okay. Okay, so I cut a piece for the shower stall, and part of what you want to do when you're laying this out is you want to make sure at your seams that the various nubs, I don't know what you call them, but I'm going to call them nubs, but that they're lined up, so that every one of them's lined up, because when you're running the wire through, you don't want it to be, you know, off center, and it's going to be harder to run the wire. So you want to make sure when you're cutting it out and laying it down, that you're lined up and you're square with all the other pieces that you have. Because this piece is longer than what I need, I'm actually not going to cut this piece. I'm going to cut the one below it, because I'd rather have the seam away from the drain. I'd rather have it closer up to the edge where the door will be. I just feel safer doing it. I don't think it actually makes a heck of a lot of difference, because I'm going to waterproof all of this and it's going to have sheet membrane throughout. But I'd rather have the seam over here than kind of in the middle of the drain area. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here, and then I'll cut out for the drain flange itself. Okay, so the last thing I need to do is to go ahead and cut out the space for the drain. So just kind of feel around for it, and I'm going to cut right here. I think that's cut right there. Let's cut right here. So we'll go ahead and just cut this, and then see if I need to trim it a little bit more. So that's the way it's going to lay once I mortar it down. I am seeing a little bit of it bunch up a little bit right here because of the cone shape that it's kind of making, so it starts to bunch up here at the top. I don't know if I'm going to have to cut that or what. I don't really want to do that because the cord's not going to lay quite right. So hopefully it just lays down nicely once you get some thin set in there. And then I'll be able to put the cord in. But it lays pretty good. It's not it's pretty flush with it. So I'm pleased with the way that turned out. Okay, so now I've got it all cut out and it's all laid out, ready to be thin setted down. So that's the next step, is to mix up some thin set and to glue it to the plywood floor. So I purchased Schluter All Set, which is their modified mortar, and they make it, and they say, it says it here, specifically formulated for membranes and Schluter boards. So I just wanted to make sure that I used their product to adhere the membrane to the subfloor. I'm just kind of leery that you know, to go with another brand, since I'm using the Ditra membrane and the heat cable and everything. I just wanted to make sure I used this. This is a 50-pound bag, and they have the instructions for how to mix it on the back, and they tell you specifically, you know, what to how far it'll go when you're using a 1/4 x 1/4 trowel versus a 11/64 trowel. So since I'm using the Ditra Heat, it will go, and it's a 1/4 x 1/4 trowel is what I'm using to adhere the membrane to the substrate, which is what we're doing. This should go about 100 square feet. You do have to mix it thinner with when you're doing for a membrane versus when you're laying tile. So when you're setting membrane, it's saying to put between 7.5 to 8.5 quarts of water in the bucket, versus when you're setting tile, it's only 5.5 to 6.5 quarts for a 50-pound bag. So they want you to go ahead and mix it up slowly for 5 minutes, then wait 10 minutes, and then mix it again for another 3 minutes, and then it'll be ready to go. Alright, let's let that slake for about 5-10 minutes, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and stir it up a little bit for another 2-3 minutes at the most, and we'll take it upstairs. Okay, so I'm going to start in the water closet first, and the way I want to do it is for these big pieces, what I'm going to do is, since I got it laid out, I'm going to pull it back and then thin set it, do half of it, and then roll the other half and thin set that side. Just make trying to lay it down a whole lot easier. Alright, so the next step is to go ahead and give it a wipe down. That kind of cleans the surface off, but it also gets the substrate wet so that it doesn't, so that the plywood doesn't absorb all the moisture of the thin set right away, and doesn't allow it to cure properly. So you want to get it wet. It doesn't have to be soaked. You can, I've wrung out the sponge, but you want to go ahead and wipe it out. And that way it picks up any fine dust too, so that it has a good surface to stick to. Once you get it down, go ahead and burn it into the plywood with the flat side of the trowel, just to get it stuck to the plywood. And then you come back with the notch ends and It's all done now. It's all laid down. The only thing that that I had to work on was when the mortar or thin set squeezes out when you're putting two seams together. That tends to be a little bit of a problem. I want to clean it out because I need to make sure that I can run the cord through there and that it's not blocked by dried up thin set. So I had to do it on all the seams. It just happened to be how it squeezes out. And that's just me not being super proficient in putting this down, but you just have to be real careful when you get to the edge not to overload it. But in any case, the only other thing is that you need to keep in mind is, I said at the beginning, is that you have to line these little nubs or studs up so that when the cable runs through that it passes nice and easy. This one was fine. This one is good. Over here is fine. Got to shift it a little bit, but that's not bad. But this one here, it got shifted a little bit. I don't know how, but it just only takes a little bit. It's maybe a quarter of an inch shift or an eighth of an inch shift there, and it won't be too bad, but you have to kind of take your time when you're running the wire through there. But even as I lined it up pre thin setting it down, and it was fine, it's just when you lay these things down, they kind of shift a little bit. This one shifted, and once it's glued down, it's down for good. You can't really shift it around too much because it's just got a lot of thin set there. So the next thing to do from here is to go ahead and finish seam sealing the shower, and then it'll be on to running the cable. So until then, signing off on this particular video. Hope this was helpful to you. If you liked it, please hit the like button or subscribe to my channel for further updates on the bathroom. Okay, talk to you soon.